Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, I guess for those of you on the East Coast, good afternoon to all of you. Hey, when you join, or those of you who are already with me, say hello and tell me where you're joining me from today. Um, we, Dr. Chelsea will be joining us, but I'm just going to go ahead and get rock and rolling. So say hi to me if you would, please. It makes me feel less lonely. I'm really excited about today's topic, which is the 5 proven ways to keep your family strong, happy, and together during chaos. I did create a whole PDF on this, and I have lots of notes for us today. Hey, Chris from KC, welcome, welcome. And just a shout out to Chris. You've been so consistent to be getting training and connection and all of that. And I'm just really proud of you. So I want to just check in, type in the comment section, all of you who are joining me right now, and let me know how you doing. Aaliyah, welcome, welcome from California. Aaliyah's getting ready to open her new practice. So welcome, welcome. So yeah, let's check in. How's everyone doing? Is this week better than last week? Is today one of the best days yet since we've all been doing the quarantine thing? What exactly is going on in your lives right now? So pop me in. Melissa from Hinesville, Georgia. Welcome, welcome. We are I'm so excited. Our Mind, Body, Spirit boot camp, which is in the Atlanta area, October 9th and 10th. We just found the main house, the main boot camp house, where we'll be having our VIP champagne dinner with a private chef on that Friday night on October the 9th. For those of you who were at the PEDS boot camp, it's going to feel like a lot of that. I'm so excited. And this house is even more amazing, if that is even possible. So there's Chelsea. Let's see, Chelsea. So, yay! So I can't hear you though, Chelsea.
Can you hear me?
Welcome, welcome. So the new, I was just explaining, we just found the house this morning for the Women's Mind, Body, Spirit boot camp in October 9th and 10th in Atlanta area. And I'm super pumped. And, I've scheduled this one at the PEDS boot camp. We all said, man, we wish we had a day that we could all just hang out together. So this one is going to be that. And even I'll be having a private chef cook us for the VIP guest brunch on Sunday morning. And the boot camp house is on a lake again. So then after brunch, we'll all get to go out and have a wonderful time, enjoying the scenery and just being together. Melissa said, this past week has given us so much hope. April started off slow, but we are starting to pick up again and have had several in-house referrals. Woo, woo. Congratulations, Melissa. And Kim from New York, welcome, welcome. Andrea says, hi there, big hugs. Thanks, Andrea. And just a huge shout out to you for your nonstop support and encouragement and friendship. I really appreciate you. Chris, I missed yesterday's Zoom call. I forgot what day it was. It's been a long week. Well, I'm glad you're here and it's Thursday. So before I forget, I also wanted to invite all of you to my business page at 3 p.m. Eastern. Today, I'll be doing a Facebook Live interview with Dennis Yu, who owns Blitz Metrics. He is the king of Facebook ads. And so we are specifically going to talk about how do you build a tribe on Facebook of raving fans who actually take action, who aren't just sitting there like, oh, I love you, Dr. Chelsea. I'm never going to come into your office, but I really love you. Yeah, we love all of the accolades and stuff, but what we're doing is so that people take action and transform their lives and fully enroll in the process called their life. So we'll be doing that as well. He's going to be helping us all understand how do we use social media to set us up for our relaunch after this COVID. So I'm super pumped about that. It is free at 3 p.m. on my business page and a whole bunch more we're going to talk about today. So I just real quickly want to give you a heads up of what are the 10 topics we're going to briefly discuss today. So number one, to keep your family healthy, strong, happy, and together during chaos, we got to have a healthy conflict. Number two, eliminate stress. Number three is MF3. I have been emphasizing this, and I'm going to keep emphasizing how important it is. Number four, be a parent to your children. And number five, be creative to combat boredom. So I first want to just jump into the first part, and that's healthy conflict. Have you ever made a decision that you were stuck with? Anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What kind of decisions have you made that you're stuck with, Chelsea? Or maybe some you don't want to say on air.
I know. I was like, where is this broadcasted to? Is this a boot camp thing? If it's a boot camp thing,
no, it's a webinar. So I know which one you were going to say. So, it's in marriage that I think this COVID thing is making some people so happy they're stuck in their marriage, and others, I think it's really marriages were the ones that never had, like, oh my gosh, they have the best marriage, they never fight. And then I'm like, ooh, I don't know two people that spend that much time together and don't have disagreements, unless all you're showing is what you think the other person wants to see, right? Like, no relationship is without turmoil at some point, whether it's your spouse or your parents or your children. And so it's really important to have healthy conflict. And so there are 4 horsemen that Dr. John Gottman has identified. And so I'm going to go through those and then we'll describe, I'm going to list them and then describe them. So, and these 4 horsemen, he has identified that as you move through them, they can be like warning signs that you're nearing the end of the relationship. And the reason it's important for family isn't just the person we're married to, right? Family, it can be our extended family. Family for some could be your church family or your neighborhood family, like those individuals that you're really close with. And so these 4 horsemen can be present in any relationship. Obviously, specifically today, we're looking at those people that probably you're sharing a roof with. So the first one, criticism. The second one is contempt. The third is defensiveness. And the fourth is stonewalling. So the first horseman, criticism. So criticism, there's a big difference between a complaint, because a complaint focuses on a specific behavior, where criticism attacks a person's character. And so when we are criticizing, recognize that we are attacking that person's character, which that's not what we want to do at all. Because what happens is there's a difference between guilt and shame, right? Guilt is, I feel bad for what I did. Shame says I'm a bad person. And I don't know about you, but I never want the people who I love to feel shame. Maybe guilt over something that they've done wrong, and now we can talk about it and come to, a conclusion to make a change. But shame, like you're a bad person, I don't think that's what we want to do in our families. And yet, when we're focusing, a lot of times fights, that's where they go, right? They go to one or the other or both. Criticizing. So that's verbally attacking. Something that you can do instead is a gentle startup, to talk about your feelings. So think of, he says to think of these 2 things to formulate your soft startup. So so let's say that Ben did something that made me unhappy, and man, I want to get him. Right? So instead, I need to say in my mind, what do I feel? And because of what I feel, what do I need to feel better? What do I feel and what do I need from him? Or what do I need him to do in order to make me feel better? Because that way I'm not criticizing, I'm instead looking at a behavior. And he gives the example of, so let's say, he walked in the house and he's like, oh my gosh, you're so lazy, the dishes aren't done. obviously that's not going to go very well for anyone, right? Versus saying, hey, babe, it seems like you've been really busy today. How can I help you get the dishes done? So we have to look at how, like, how does he feel when he walks in and what does he need? Well, he wants the kitchen cleaned up or whatever. And now he can partner with me instead of attacking. So the first horseman that indicates there's a problem is criticism. And I think it's really easy, just like, subluxation patterns, we run them and run them and run them and run them. Well, we can get into modes where we're just in a mode where when we get triggered, we criticize. We get triggered and we criticize. A great book on the topic is Crucial Conversations. Awesome. Who is the author of that one?
I don't know. I have it over there, but I will. They approach the same thing, of knowing how to approach somebody to have a constructive conversation instead of being on the defense or on the attack, because that's never going to create unity to get to a goal.
Absolutely. And so I encourage all of you, when you get triggered, remember it's trigger, physiology, thoughts, action, habit. Consequence, right? So, like, for instance, let's say that Megan said something to Chelsea and it triggers her to be like defensive. And then she has all of these thoughts. Well, what we have to understand is that trigger that leads to physiology. And when we have those thoughts, it's the thoughts that we've experienced our whole lives from that trigger that come in that moment. But what's happening is that person is triggering us. And if we're not aware, like, know thyself, know thy physiology, to know, like, you just triggered a time bomb. This isn't all you didn't create this whole history, but now I have this whole history of thoughts. And then now my actions are this kind of thing. And then my response. So the second horseman is contempt. That's not good at all. And that's attacking a sense of self with an intent to insult or abuse. It's destructive and defeating. And it's the biggest predictor that the relationship is going to end. When there's contempt in one or both of you, that is the biggest sign. So listen, here's how it shows up. And it shows up when we take that position of superiority. That position of superiority is often seen in sarcasm, cynicism, name calling, eye rolling, sneering, mockery. So do you find yourself being sarcastic, not in like a fun way, but in a nasty way with either your spouse or your children? What about cynicism? Are you a cynic? Do you, in your mind, have you already decided they can't change or they won't change? Do you call them names? Even your children? You're so stupid. You're so lazy. You're so this. You're so that. That is never going to bring health to a relationship. Sneering, mockery, eye rolling. None of those indicate, when we're doing them, that we're moving closer to a better relationship. Now, if you're on the other end of those, recognize that it's not right. But all you can change is your action. And that's what I'm here to help you with today. And to recognize these critical horseman signs, because they're part of developing a strong, healthy family. So instead, what we do is build a culture of appreciation. Do small things often. And it's the magic ratio of 5 to 1. 5 positive things to 1 negative. So have you ever noticed, like, you can get in this spiral where it's just like negative after negative after negative after negative? We have control to say, no. Like, that negative thing happened. I'm doing 5 positive. So it's building a culture of appreciation. Yeah, but you don't understand how terrible he or she is. Okay. Make sure somebody else's behavior doesn't change who you are. We have 100% control over ourselves. And if you're not negative Nelly, but you feel like the person you're in a relationship with is causing you to be negative Nelly, take responsibility first for your own actions. Take responsibility first for your own actions. All right, the third one, defensiveness. It's victimizing yourself to ward off a perceived attack and to reverse the blame. Victimizing yourself. I didn't do something wrong. It wasn't me. And it's typically a response to criticism. We've all been defensive.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the strategy is almost never is never successful. So I think if we're feeling defensive, it's really important instead to step back again and go, all right, what do I feel and what do I need? And to even come out with saying like, hey, I understand I did something wrong. How you said that makes me like want to just punch you in the face. So instead, could we get to like the bottom of what I did? Because remember, typically what happened is you just triggered your spouse, and then they have physiology, thoughts, actions, and consequences. So for defensiveness, number one, take responsibility, accept your partner's perspective, and this says offer an apology. Those of you who know me well know I don't like apologies. I'm sorry means nothing. But if I've offended Chelsea and I say instead, hey, Chelsea, you know what? I said blah, 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 and it was probably wrong. And I'm asking you to forgive me. Asking for forgiveness instead of saying, I'm sorry, will go much further and indicates your heart, not the other person's. Now, let's say I asked Chelsea for forgiveness and she still was like, yeah, fine, I forgive you. Okay, probably not. If somebody else does or doesn't forgive you, that's not the point of it. The point is that you took on the responsibility, you humbled yourself, you asked for forgiveness. So now guess what? Now you don't have to drink the acid, because refusing to take responsibility and to be angry is like me drinking acid, assuming it's going to hurt Chelsea. Mm-hmm. It's not. So now instead I did what was necessary, and now I have to turn and go the other direction and not continue to do it. So I don't keep asking for forgiveness and then, keep hurting her. Instead, I ask for forgiveness and change my ways. All right, the fourth one, stonewalling. It's withdrawing to avoid conflict and convey disapproval, distance, and separation. Now, I'm the one that I can't stand it when there's conflict. Like, I want to talk it all out like right now. And I had to learn this in our marriage. Like, Ben just needs some space. And it doesn't mean that that's bad. It doesn't mean anything. It just means he just needs some space. So, like me being up in his face or me being like, no, let's get through this now, doesn't honor him. And so just giving some space, which is way different than I'm just mad at you and I'm going to go off by myself and have that distance. There has to be, when you create space, there has to be an agreement of how long that space is going to exist till we come back together and talk about it. So we don't just separate angry. Chelsea, I'm furious with you right now. I just give me an hour. Chelsea, I'm just give me 10 minutes to run around the block real quick or scream or whatever I have to do. And then we'll talk about it. I just need some space. And what this does is it's a physiological self-soothing. It gives each one of us a time to take a break, get back into parasympathetic. So we're not over, fired up in our sympathetics. And then we can obviously be much more logical than just firing each other off like crazy. So those 4 horsemen on this document that you can all get from my website, it gives you the link to be able to study those. And I would encourage all of you to really study healthy conflict. And don't think, here's the cool thing. I heard this said many years ago, and I thought it was awesome. A man and woman were celebrating their 60-something wedding anniversary. And somebody said to them, what is your secret? And they both kind of looked at each other, and almost in unison, they said, by God's grace, one of us was always willing to work at it. One of us wanted to leave, this one wanted to work at it. This one wanted to leave, this one was willing to work. So as long as you both don't want to leave at the same time, there's always hope. And I just encourage all of you, if you're feeling that way of there's just no hope, do yourself this favor. Start working on you, and you take excellent care of yourself, And in the end, if you split up anyway, you're going to be healthier, which is a way better place to be no matter what, if you're in relationship or not. So Chelsea, you're shaking your head. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just important in any relationship. Like I look at my little sister, you know, and she's trying to date and she's at that age where she's looking for a spouse, but she has a lot of these relationship issues, but it's not a relationship issue. It's a personal issue that she brings to the relationship. And so I think in any marriage, it's really important to really take a big reflection as to, you know, why are you having these issues? Because more than likely it's something within you. And if you work on that personally, and your spouse also has that same respect to work on themselves personally, you come to the marriage as whole individuals, which can make a much healthier marriage.
Amen to that. And I cannot encourage all of you enough. You know, again, those of you who know me well know that my dad always taught me, know thyself. And I've upgraded that lately to say, know thy physiology. Know your triggers. And then when you feel a change in your physiology, take personal responsibility, inventory of that physiology. And then what are your thoughts, your actions, and your consequences, and decide if you want to rewrite that. Let's all take back the pen of the story of our lives and recognize, like, the triggers and the physiologies of our lives probably aren't going to change, but we 100% have responsibility for the rest of it, and we can change that. So absolutely. And Chelsea, I ask you to join me today because you have a really strong family, but it hasn't always been like that. And I know that you have repeatedly said how much, how you've grown in and through the boot camp has made an impact on your family. Where were you versus where are you now?
Well, so I think that I happen to marry a saint, first of all. But and you, I mean,
wonderful.
She is, but I think a lot of the things that you're talking about, you know, on these 5 points that you bring up, I have noticed in my marriage, Megan has always been very aware of those things. I think probably subconsciously, but she does those things to make our marriage stronger. And one thing that I wrote down is when she does all kinds of things for me. She has learned a lot of my triggers, and she has probably understood my triggers more than I have. But she's always come to me in a growth mindset for our marriage. And her doing things like that for me has created an awareness in me that allows me to be proactive and also serving her and the things that she needs, because she's very attentive to the things that I need. But when I was in the boot camp, or when we first started, you know, our marriage has always been really good. But personally, I have just grown a lot in my confidence as a businesswoman, my confidence as a chiropractor, my confidence as a mom. And all of that creates this self-confidence that you bring to a table in a marriage. And so the stronger and the more that I've been able to work on myself and be confident in who I am, what I do, and who I serve, that allows me to be stronger in my marriage, because I come to a marriage whole instead of with doubt, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how has your success in practice impacted your family from this perspective? I think as moms, it's easy to think to ourselves, well, I'll just pause my career so that I can have a family.
Yeah.
And you've done completely not that.
Right.
What happened?
Well, I mean, you have always said that when you're raising kids, you got to think about raising young adults. And I want Peyton to understand, that's my daughter, that the world doesn't revolve around her, and she needs to be able to be independent and live in the world that we have and to be successful and to do those things. And I want her to always look up to me as somebody who has done that. Mm-hmm. But it has also taught me to really be, like you say, be obsessed at work so that you can be obsessed at home. And it's easy to blend those two. And I've noticed now recently with everything with COVID going on, there's a lot of everything's online, and it's sometimes hard to separate what is Facebook work or webinar work and being at home, because the lines are a little blurred right now. And so I've really had to look at that. I can tell Megan gets a little frustrated with me because I'm on Facebook a lot more, trying to engage, trying to gain patience, trying to encourage in my groups that I have. And you got to separate those two. So I think that's I don't know if you guys or anybody else is experiencing that right now.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, most of you know I've worked from home in some capacity for 21 years, full time for, I don't know, long time. And so that knowing what is work and what needs to be family and having really clear boundaries is so important. So let me help you all with a couple of things. Number one, create a physical boundary for work. And what I mean, have a place that you work and only be in that place and only do your work when you're in that place. That includes all of your social media crap. Don't lie to yourselves. You know, really and truly, you can accomplish what you need to on social media and probably maximum of 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's doing a lot on social media. So guess what? Take it off your phone. Take it off your phone. And instead, when you're working on social media and that's what you're doing for your business, because you're telling your family, I'm working on my business. And we even tell ourselves that lie. Make it that you have to go into that space. And then when you're done for the day, leave that space. Now, let's say you're like, yeah, but Barb, I don't have a specific office at home. That's fine. Wherever you work at home, then close it up and be done for the day. So give yourself a physical boundary. Then an emotional boundary. Make sure that you start with, and something that my team and I are working on during COVID is 3 impact points a day. What are the 3 biggest things that we're going to get done every day? And each one of us has a different thing. And then we have, a whiteboard just through Google Excel that we all look at. And these are the 3 main impact points. And you know what? Some days my impact points, if you looked at them, you'd be like, seriously, like that's as big as it got. Yep. Because I was working on growing my self-confidence again, because I had been making commitments to myself, hadn't been following through. My self-confidence eroded. And then you know what I was doing is spending more time on on social media, looking to see if I was relevant. Well, that's not out there. That's in here. Mm-hmm. And that's in here when I keep commitments to myself. Yes. So even if your commitments are little, do them and then they'll grow. So we're looking for, resist the temptation for motion in your life and look for momentum. There's a big difference. So motion is just this. Momentum is that.
And well, that's like busyness and productivity.
Busyness versus, productivity. And even a step beyond productivity, I encourage you to think of impact.
I like that.
Will this make an impact? And how deep of an impact do I want to make with this? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, to kind of finish that question about how has that impacted me as a family. With having a kid and like we haven't slowed down any. And I think as parents, we lie to us and we say, my time is limited, but our time isn't limited now. Our time just needs to be more purposeful. So when it was Megan and I and just the 2 of us and we were starting out, her expectations of me were very different because she knew I was growing a business from scratch and starting, and that I was going to be spending a lot of my time doing those things. And now what we had to do is say, when we have a daughter and we want more kids, what are our goals as a family? What does that look like? And we sit down and we have financial meetings, how I plan my goals in the office. I plan my goals with Megan. Like at the table, we sit down with our calendars, our books, and we plan what are our goals financially, what vacations do we want, the big rocks and all the things you talk about in marketing. And then we talk about, okay, well, how do we get there? And then we reverse that and think about how do we get there? Then we say, okay, well, if that's where we're going, what is your role and what is my role? Nice. How are we handling the business aspect of it? And how are we handling the home aspect of it? And I mean, since we've done that, I'm so thankful, but I have not cooked dinner in like 3 years because I stay at the office later. So I handle Peyton in the morning and I get her ready. I get her dressed. I get her to school. I make sure she's got all her diapers and her wipes, and that is me, because I'm going to be at the office later. So Megan gets Peyton. She handles dinner. She cooks for us. And then I come home. I take Peyton from her, allow her to have some downtime. I bathe her, I sing to her, put her to bed, read her books, and then Megan and I get to come and have time together. And so we've learned, what are your roles to get us to our goals? And then our next question that we're working on now is, how do we hold each other accountable of doing the things that we need to make everything work? So being on the same page, it's like you want your patients. You lay out, here's the goal, here's the path, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And how are we going to do that? We do the same thing in our marriage and our home, because everything has to work and come together. And we have to have those expectations so we can work together as a team to reach those goals.
And I love the conversation. You know, I think there can be this idea that because we're married, our spouse just can read our mind.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that at all, right? You know, and I want to, and I would consider Chelsea like one of my close friends, and as a result of that, very close friends with Megan too. So I feel confident in asking this question. I think actually we've even talked about this at your house. You know, sometimes I think that as women, we can feel like, well, there's strife in my marriage just because, you know, he's a guy.
Yeah.
So is there still strife in a lesbian marriage?
Absolutely. I mean, you take two strong, opinionated females and live under the same roof. What do you think? But there is. I mean, it's just with anybody. I mean, it's a people problem, not a gender problem. You know,
yes.
It's conversation. You know, we are all, you know, you look at different personality types, or I'm really big into the Enneagram testing. I don't know if you've ever done that, but to me, that stuff makes our conversations very I approach things very differently with Megan, understanding how she receives. It's like a love language, but it's not a conversation. So how she receives things, how she's triggered, and what allows her to feel safe and trusted in a relationship is how I need to serve her in my communication. Same strife.
So yeah, you know what? So I want to say something here. You know, I think when we get down these horseman rabbit holes, we can eventually say to ourselves, well, that sounds great, and I would do that, but, right? Like, I'm not, can you still hear me? Can you guys still hear me? Chelsea just went, oh, there we go. The idea of, I would love to do all these things, but I don't get it back. You know what? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do it anyway, because that's who you are. You're the one on this webinar today growing. And perhaps some of you are on this and thinking, so Chelsea says, I think I lost you. We lost you too, Chelsea. I think maybe you're back. Hey, Chris, can you still hear me? Oh, she left. Now she's back. Chris says, yes, I do school in the morning, then do what I can work-wise in the afternoon. I feel like I don't see my husband a whole lot. And you know, Chris, that's really, really common. I would encourage you and your husband to come together and decide, when are we still going to date? Because your marriage is going to be there long after your kids leave. You know, Ben and I are empty nesters, and I'm so thankful that we still made space for us while we were raising our children. And obviously, as many of you know, I was a single mom until Samson and Micah, until I met Ben. Samson was in 8th grade and Micah was in 7th grade. And so it was still just really important for us to date. And so for those of you who are like, yeah, but what are we supposed to do with our kids? We have young kids. You know, I love that Megan and Chelsea, they, you know, like there's dinner and then there's playtime with Peyton. And then, you know what, honey, it's time to go to bed. Like, we need our time too. And so I think that structure when your kids are young is so vital. Like, don't let your children, their time bleed in to your time with your spouse. And if you're a single parent, you still need that space too. Like, as a single mom, my kids had to go to bed. I love you very much. I will see you in the morning. But I need this space for me, so tomorrow I can get up and be a great mom. But I need my space. And that doesn't mean you're a bad parent because you need your space. I mean, it's part of self-care. Chelsea, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because when you look at the 5 love languages, Megan and I had this conversation probably about 3 or 4 months ago. that I felt like she was really being served in the relationship and I wasn't. And what that meant was, it sounds selfish, but her love language is acts of service. And acts of service is partially part of being an adult because she likes when I do the dishes. I love setting up the coffee for her in the morning. I like making sure the dogs are fed. Like little things that are acts of service that she doesn't have to do makes her feel very fulfilled in a marriage. My love language is quality time. And we were not carving out with having a child. I felt like this huge piece missing for me and what I needed. And I needed dates to be scheduled outside of the house. I needed to get away from Peyton with Megan and connect on a quality level. Or put away the TV and the phones and let's play a board game, or let's, ask each other questions or have thought-provoking conversations or whatever. And she was like, God, I have never sat down and thought about it. And she was like, I understand you do these acts of service, but that's what you need to do to keep our house running. And I was like, but I wouldn't do them the way that I do them if I didn't serve you, because I would do it totally different, because that's not my love language. So I'm in it's like for you, you may think that it's a normal thing, but for me, I'm being very intentional in doing that. And I need that same effort back. And so, I mean, she, even through COVID, has made sure to plan some sort of quality time to make sure that I'm being served. But it takes having that conversation. I think so many times we'll just put that stonewalling. We'll just put it up and be like, well, they obviously aren't caring enough about to give me my needs. Well, have you communicated what your needs are to give your spouse a chance to do that? And if they don't do that, that's on them. But we've got to communicate that,
Yes. I think, and for all of you, being the martyr mom is not a healthy model to give your children. Please don't be the martyr mom. And to just think that, oh, I just do everything for my family. Poor me. Because you know what? You're modeling for your children exactly that behavior. And that's what they're going to grow up to do. And you know what else it says to them is it's such a chore to take care of you. Like, I'm such the martyr. And as we started this conversation, that Chelsea said, as soon as I got pregnant with Samson, I just had this huge sense of responsibility. I have to raise this baby to be a man in 18 years. There's so much that I have to teach him. And I know that Megan and Chelsea feel that way about Peyton, but obviously a woman. And just, not that we don't have fun, we still have fun, but to recognize that they'll learn to be responsible with their money, with their emotions, with their relationships, with their time, with their talents, because you require them to do that as they grow older. Like, honestly, I think it's super selfish of parents to do everything for their kids, and then their kids go off on their own and they're in college, and now they have to manage new relationships, being away from home, doing their own laundry, doing their own grocery shopping, managing their time with their homework, managing their time with their health care, with their personal care. No, start giving them those responsibilities when they live under your home. So if they fall apart, you're there to help them. But that doesn't mean that you take the responsibility away, because at some point in time, they're going to be responsible for doing all of that. And I think that's even something fun that Megan and Chelsea do with Peyton is, it's time to clean up our toys. Like, we're not going to go to bed and wake up in the morning and have a mess.
Yeah.
No, it's the end of the day. We put things away. And it's funny, we were driving in our neighborhood the other day, and now with COVID, obviously kids are home and and some of our neighbors, their kids just leave their bikes out or their toys. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when we were kids, it was like, whether we were playing at my house or my aunt's house, the yard is going to be picked up before we're done. And so I insisted that, then I have insisted that with our children, and it shouldn't look like we just dropped our stuff and that was it. All of that stuff is important. And if your kids are old enough to get toys out, they're old enough to learn how to put them away.
Oh, yeah. So, and Peyton's too. I mean, you saw her clean up the playroom when you were here. I mean, she knows where everything goes. She knows what to do. I mean, when she takes her clothes off for bath time, we say, where do those go? And she throws them in the hamper. But she loves being a helper. So it's really fun to instill that responsibility in her, because I didn't have that as a kid. You know, I was one of those ones who went to college and was like, how do you do laundry? What is a checkbook? And, you know, so on the flip side of that, like having been through it, I don't want Peyton to not feel confident in her ability to do that on her own. I'll always be here to guide her and help her through that. But that confusion for me and that frustration of learning and working through that, I don't want to put that on her. So
absolutely. And I don't want my kids to, you know, even manners. I wanted it to be that if my kids were eating at somebody else's house, they knew what utensil to use. They knew about being polite. They knew about all that stuff, so that when others looked on them, they had favor. Like, I have prayed that for my children since I was pregnant with them. Lord, please make it that they find favor. Oh, well, I don't want my kids to think other people's opinions matter. Okay, well, then you're a ding dong. It's the world that we live in. And I'm not saying that they look around for relevance from others, but you tell me, who would you rather have at your table? A child who has great manners, or the slob? The child who always has to go first, or the child who recognizes the preciousness of others? I'll pick the preciousness of others any day over your brat, 100%. All right, so we're already 45 minutes in. Guess what? We've not gotten through a lot of this. I real quickly want to tell you that you get to go through this now. So the second one is eliminate stress. Seek to abolish these stressors permanently, not just during COVID. And I want you to be thinking about eliminating these stressors as part of your new family dynamic, not as just like, let's get through COVID. Set up these systems in your family as regular systems for here going forward. So what I did is I gave you like chemical stress. What can you eliminate and what can you replace it with? Like, for instance, let's say that you're a soda family. I never was. I didn't raise, our family isn't either. But let's say you are, and you recognize that's maybe not something good. What will you eliminate? But what can you replace it with? You know, ever since Ben and I started dating, we've been the adult beverage in the evening together. Whether it was a glass of wine or a Moscow Mule or whatever. And over the last several years, we've started realizing, well, maybe that's not the best for us. You know, not like an addiction wise, but just the effects of alcohol. So what can we replace it with? Well, we drink sleepy time tea, or, you know, like something different, because we still like the habit of like watching a television show with something in our hands. And what we realized was, what we liked was that habit of making something together. It wasn't necessarily the adult beverage. So replace it. Physical stress. What kind of physical stress are you enduring now? And what can you replace it with? Like, probably a lot of you are sitting on couches to do your work. What could you replace it with? You know what? Just like drop one foot down and sit on your floor. You're going to have a lot more support. And guess what? You probably don't want to sit there very long. So what you're going to do is get up and move around. Then emotional stress. What kind of emotional stress are you enduring? What emotional stress do you want to eliminate, and what can you replace it with? And then the last one on that is technological. What technology do you need to eliminate, and what can you replace it with? Like Chell said, you know, your couple time doesn't have to just be in front of the television. We could get rid of technology and add a game. We could get rid of technology and, I don't know, play Twister. Do something. Like eliminate stressors, but then replace them. Then MF3, I'm going to keep emphasizing this. Repetition is the first law of learning. And I got to tell you, this commitment to MF3 has been a game changer for me. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Melissa says Zevia. I don't know what Zevia is. Tell me more. M is me, F is family, F is future, and F is fun. So each day you make a commitment to yourself to have one specific thing in each of those categories. All right, here's the next one, and we'll go quickly through this one. Please be a parent to your children. They don't need a friend. Oh, but my kids just really do better with adults. I don't care. Don't be their friend, be their parent. They are counting on you to step up in their life and create boundaries and leadership with them. Please do not be a friend to your children. There are lots of people in their lives who are going to take that place, but there's only one person who can be their mother and only one person who can be their father, and they want you to do that. Now, I say that obviously tongue in cheek. They're blended families as well. I'm saying the role that you're filling in your child's life, do not be their parent. Chelsea, you and I have talked about this. What do you want to throw in there?
No, I mean, you know how we are with Peyton and the expectations that we have for her. And that's important. Like, we instill manners in her. She has expectations on her chores. She has expectations on how she acts. And not that we run like a military house or anything like that, but I think Megan is a special needs teacher. She has been for years, and she thrives that kids need structure and responsibility in order to feel safe and to thrive. So that's just kind of how we model our family.
Structure and responsibility to feel safe. So your kids don't feel safe when they don't know what's going on because you refuse to have boundaries with them. You know, I've used this example 100 times. Like, think about that relationship that you've been in the past where you didn't really know, are we together or are we apart? Are we a couple or are we not? And you're just kind of always looking for, like, where do I go here? And a lot of kids feel the same way because, like, is mom going to blow up after 4 or is it going to be 2? And so I just encourage all of you, first time obedience. I don't care if it's a teenager. What I say goes right now, not in 10 minutes. It goes right now. And like Chelsea said, it's not to be militant. It's because you love your children. If we didn't love our children, we wouldn't disciple them. That's what discipline comes from, is discipling them, which means shepherding them and teaching them, because guess what? They're not going to be with you for very long. We do have a huge responsibility. All right. And then the 5th one, be creative to combat the boredom and involve your whole family. Be creative. That's like every time I'm around Chelsea and Megan and all of the cute, creative things that they do with Peyton, I'm always like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Oh my gosh, like, I love that. I love that. I love that. And be creative, be silly, like, find ways in which you can literally do belly laughs. And their family is really good about that. Chelsea, how are you guys so creative, and what do you do that creates so much laughter in your home?
I think part of that is just my personality. Honestly, that's just how I roll. But, I think a lot of us are having to get very creative now because there's so much more downtime. You know, you're not rushing off to go do this or rushing to be at this meeting or this practice or that, whatever. So there's a lot of family time. But I don't know. I think back to my childhood, and I remember my dad just being present with us. And I tell myself every day, like, just be present with Peyton. And I think kids are a really good way of making you be present because they don't have this awareness of anything but the right now. And if I sit around and just watch TV or am passive in my family, then I start getting stressed and anxiety because I'm thinking about things that I can't do in the moment. So I don't know. We just have a good time. Peyton is so much fun. We love getting outside and playing games and watching her learn new skills. Like right now, hide and seek is a big thing in our family. So, and it's so funny because Peyton will just run and she just thinks that she's supposed to go to another room and stand there. But we've taught her how to like hide under things now, or maybe like throw it in your face or something. And it's just hilarious to see a 2-year-old like try and play hide and go seek. And
yeah,
so.
And what a fun thing.
Yeah.
What a fun thing. And I just encourage all of you, be silly. And that's where I think that MF3 is so important. Start the day with, all right, how are we going to have fun today? And maybe that's what, like, challenge yourself. I'm going to get through these other 3 so fast so I can get to the fun. And if the rest of your day is fun, awesome. You can be really proud of yourself that you hit your 3 impact points and you did your other MF. At that point would be MF3, your other MF3. So Chelsea, as we sign off today, what final words do you want to leave with our audience?
In regards to what specifically? What do you think?
Building a strong, healthy family that stays together during chaos.
You know, I've heard the saying that business problems aren't really business problems, they're relationship problems in disguise. So I think right now, since we've all slowed down a lot, to really sit in some of the emotions you might be feeling within your family or yourself. I journal a lot. So I think we've been on an emotional roller coaster with COVID and our business, and then our business affects our family and our family affects our business. So slow down, embrace the reality that we're in right now, and really think about how can you work on yourself, and then have the crucial conversations with your partner and your kids about what do you need to feel loved or to feel safe or to be a vital role in this family to create a unit. Because when you are happy at home and everything is falling into place there, you can drop that as a stressor and be really present in your business, and your business can thrive. And then you get to look forward to coming home to a happy family. So having these conversations and just being present and doing the work that needs to be done to serve both you and your partner.
Yep. The purpose of our business is to fund our ideal lifestyle. And that ideal lifestyle is a collaboration of the whole family.
Yeah.
Everyone in the family is important. Hey, all of you, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again in an hour over on my business Facebook page for an interview about marketing, Facebook ads, and how to get your fans actually taking action. And then next week we have how to create vision beyond COVID-19. Like, what's out there and how do we cast vision? So remember, as a leader, our three main responsibilities: cast vision, create culture, and hold accountable. So I appreciate Chelsea being with me today. Thank you so much. And to Melissa and Chris and Kim, you are the only ones who popped in there. So, and Aaliyah, thank you so much for joining us. When you get this replay link, do me a favor. If this was of benefit to you, would you share it to one other friend or family member who maybe needs to be reminded of these things, or maybe they don't know, but you could be the catalyst for a family staying together, for a family healing. So I'm just asking you to take that tiny bit of effort, throw it up on your social media pages, and together we're going to win this. Chelsea and all of you, thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great day. See ya.